All right. There we go. Oh, I got my screen. All right. I see what I need to do. I'm going to need to put it into gallery. Oh, it is in gallery view. All right. Yeah, this is the tech that appears at the beginning of every one of our YouTube videos. For now. All right. Welcome. I see. Oh, you're using the name Kama now. How wonderful. Oh, Susan.
Yes.
Susan. Yeah. All right, and Amy may join us and others, but I'm gonna do the sharing of the screen, and this will begin our Sila celebration with the requesting for the refuges and precepts. Screen share. Okay. So, all right, go ahead.
Mayang ayeti sarangena saha silani yachama. Dutiyampi mayang ayeti sarangena saha silani yachama. Tatiyampi mayang ayeti sarangena saha silani yachama.
Okay, so you can. I would like to say this is Ayya Dhamma, dear friend in the Sangha. I'm very glad that we'll be offering the refuges and precepts. Thank you, Ayya.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Please repeat. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
It's
okay. Repeat after me. Buddham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tisaranya kamanam nititam. Kamma ayye. Panatipata veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. Panatipata veramani sikapadam samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Adinna dana veramani sikapadam samadhiyami.
Dina dana samadhiyami.
Oh, English.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Kamesu nichachara veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Kamesu nichachara veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
Musawada veramani sikapadang samadhiyami.
Musawada veramani sikapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
Sura Mirya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Sura Meraya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
This completes the 5 precepts. Now we will do the 8 precepts. Or those not
Type at the same time. I was trying to type in
those who would like
those who would like
to take the 8 precepts.
I'll edit that later.
Panatipata Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Panatipata Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Adina Dana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Dinadana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya. Oh,
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Brahmacharya Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from any kind of intentional sexual activity.
Musawada Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Musawada Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
Sura Mirya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Sura Meraya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
Vikala Bhojana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Vikala Bhojana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times.
Nachagita Vadita Visukadasana Mala Gandha Vilepana Dardana Mandana Vibhusanatana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Nachagita Vadita Visukadasana Malaganda Vilepanadarana Mandana Vibhusanatana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment.
Ucha Sayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
Ucha Sayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place.
Imani sika padani, silena sugatinyanti, silena boga sampada, silena nibutinyanti, tasma sila visodaye. These are the precepts for training. Virtue is the source of happiness. Virtue is the source of true wealth. Virtue is the source of peacefulness. Therefore, let virtue be purified.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I think that every monastic has talked over the English. And if you haven't done that at least 20 times in your monastic life, you just haven't given the precepts enough. So thank you very much for, I like just sitting beside it. And we were talking, or Alex and I earlier, about just hearing the refuges and precepts offered and recited, and that we're grounding in the Sila. My mouth is starting to hurt from the smiling. So yeah, it's a good hurt. So sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'll stop the screen share and welcome Amy. I don't know if you've met Ayya Dhamma before. No? Okay. Just up this week visiting, and then we'll be down with her brother and taking Vasa in Southern California. So I'm just having a little bit of a flashback to someone's head shaving. Dhammavara was one of 3, right? That took the Anagarika ordination, and of course had been doing these precepts for a good while before then. But there was something so sweet about 3 of them in the chairs out on the lawn, and we had the collecting the hair, and then sharing the hair with the birds, and which we still, I shared a raspberry from the meal with the birds here today, so we're still sharing. But how the Sila becomes the central point of our monastic life. Not that it's not in every layperson here and on the screen, also very, very central, but there's something about that taking the hair off, and then just really committing to, nope, I can't just hide behind the hairdo. I can't pull the hair off. I had long hair at one point, longer than Amy's, and I could just hide behind that. And you can't do that so much. So yes, my gratitude to all who take the precepts and all who take it as a training. It's not a said and done, or the world would be way better. It's a said and done and done and done and done again and again and again and again. So while Ayya Suhajana is away this month, I'm very grateful to have Dhammavara here, and starting next week, Ayya Suchita will be here from South Korea, right up until Ayya Suhajana gets back. So we have wonderful siblings in monastic life. And so what I did for myself was I kind of laid out a map of what I wanted to be able to share during this month. And so I'd have a lot of time to look at the suttas and pull them together. And those who were here with the programs over this last week would know that we were looking at caring for this life. Really showing up for ourselves in our practice. And in this coming week, we're looking at quarrels and disputes. So it sounds like quite a leap, but it's really not. the caring for oneself makes it possible for us to really understand what's important. What is it worth disputing about? And I'm not going to focus on that part today, but I'm just mentioning that segue that's kind of happening on the Sunday today. And so in terms of that taking care of ourselves, one of the suttas we looked at is called Beloved. And it's in the Samyutta Nikaya 3.4. It's in a section where we've got King Passaddhi. 3.8 is the one that people know a lot about, where he's with the Queen Malika, and saying, oh my dear, who do you most love? And she says, well, myself. And asked him, and he says, well, I guess, yeah, myself too. And how the Buddha actually praised that as a wise and realistic. And really, when we look at it, it's true. We really do love ourselves, even if our habits and behaviors have occluded that for years and years. We keep showing up to lifetimes because there is something in it that, we care about. But there's this sutta, the beloved one, 3.4. In this sutta, the king has been meditating. So I love it that in the canon we have kings that meditate. Like to have more of that in our world. So he's meditating, and he says, I was thinking, there are those who say, I love myself, but their actions are bad. They do bad deeds in their body, speech, and mind. And when I think on that, I actually see that they are their own enemy. So he's seeing that even if you claim to love yourself, if your behavior is harmful through body, speech, and mind, if your Sila is distorted, then you're actually treating yourself like an enemy. And then he said, I do want to pull that sutta up because I don't have the verse memorized. I'll try to do that in the background. And then he said that that the one who even says, I don't love myself, but their behavior is such in body, speech, and mind that they act with good deeds. Those are the ones who treat themselves as beloved. And then in verse, he says this: if you knew yourself as beloved, you'd not yoke yourself to wickedness. For happiness is not easy to find by someone who does bad deeds. As those first two lines, if you knew yourself as beloved, you'd not yoke yourself to wickedness. So you'd attend to your deeds by body, speech, and mind in such a way that you treated yourself as beloved. So I'm curious, before I go on and draw an analogy into how we go into the next week, how does that land for you? This concept of beloved, because your actions through body, speech, and mind are wholesome. I'm seeing nods. Is there any experience or insight that comes up?
There's the strength in that, because the source of the good deeds, or the source of the love, becomes from within, independent of whether or not the person next to you or beside you loves you. You love yourself, so therefore your actions are going to be based and come from that love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's an alignment with an integrity of the truthfulness of the Dhamma for you.
Right, within oneself.
Yeah.
And then that can radiate outwards, irrespective of what someone does or says.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that for me.
Yeah, an arising of confidence, sada. Anyone else in the room or online? And welcome, Elizabeth. I see you've joined too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned this to Kellyanne and Musa
Can,
before.
can you hear Alex, or should we get Alex to move a little closer? Amy's going.
Okay, what about now?
Okay.
I have often had the sense that when my Sila is very strong, I've had the sense that when my Sila is very strong, it feels like I'm going through life wearing this really beautiful gown. And I can feel that when my Sila is more questionable, the gown starts to feel kind of grungy. But the thing about the gown is it's like a self-healing gown. Like it could never really stay so grungy for long, which I think is something so beautiful about Sila. It wants to be bright and shining, and it's kind of self-healing.
That's another beautiful image. Yeah, and the suttas also talk about the fragrance of Sila. Yeah. So, oh yeah, please feel free to stand, walk, move, both online and in person, to take care of your body. Yeah, so there's this sense of it welling up and being a nurturing thing, that we can see ourselves as beautiful by our actions. We can see the adornment of Sila for us, the freshness of, and we're not needing someone external to us to validate or to affirm what should be the action. It's a natural movement that comes from taking these precepts and living these precepts. And kind of the segue is so the Buddha tells us to know ourselves as beloved and to not yoke ourselves to wickedness. So those were the first two lines of the verses that he recited. And when I've mentioned this to people, they kind of somehow pick it up as a conceit, that oh, well, looking after myself, if I'm really looking, if I'm doing these things for myself, then isn't that a conceit that I'm making myself better than other people? I don't know, maybe that's something that only monastics run into, people with that opinion, but have others run into that, or in yourself? It's like, oh, if I take time for my meditation practice, I'm being self-centered. If I behaving my Sila in ways that are not the norms of society, I'm trying to elevate myself above. If we look at the poem, there really is an elevating above, but we're not elevating ourselves above people. We're elevating ourselves above a tendency to fall into disrepair and disrepute, and to fall into behaviors that are the social norms of lying, or of theft, even if it's not a grand theft. Little ways that we're just not in harmony, little ways that we're out of sync with this pure and open, beautiful heart. And too many people are like, well, once you've declared this Sila as your guide point, don't you become arrogant? And I have seen people pick it up that way, but when it's done with integrity, I don't see that at all. What I see is the person that's got the smile on the bus that you want to talk to them. Or when you're out on the sidewalk, they feel safe around you. There's just a sense that the people holding the precepts with this naturalness that you brought up, that I really appreciate, this naturalness of it coming up. There's no identity there. It is the movement of Dhamma. So when I do hear that people are bringing in this sense of conceit, I'm better than, or I am so terrible at my Sila, I'm worse than, or any of those comparisons, that is a point where we're still putting a self into it. What we're aiming for is the precepts to be the natural flow of alignment with the brightness of the Dhamma. And so what I'm interested in us talking about today is that alignment with reality. Is there a lot of things in the world that I know we'd like to dispute and we'd like to shift and change? I'm not saying that's an unwholesome thing to do. I mean, when the world is causing harm, then the Buddha does recommend we speak against causing harm. There are the suttas that say, I do no harm and I speak against doing harm. Now, and so that is a wholesome thing to do, but it needs to be done with this sense of just the Dhamma flowing. It's not a picking up of arms. The suttas we're going to look at this week are, not contending with anyone. That when you speak, what comes out when you talk about Sila, when you talk about well-being, it is coming out of the flow of the beauty, the brightness, the warmth, the inclusivity, everything is included. That really is the essence of the Dhamma. So if there are comments about where this is difficult or where this is working for you or how to do it more completely, please bring them out. I see thoughtful expressions. That's wonderful. Modita.
To me, it feels like Donna giving a gift.
Yes. Can you hear? Yeah, getting thumbs up, they can hear you.
That the more safe I make myself, I'm giving that to the world. Not only as you could be safe around me, but maybe a little bit of an example that you could do that and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can be happy with doing the Sila, and I just see it as a gift to me and a gift to others.
Yeah.
Looking after that.
Sila and Dana go very, very closely hand in hand. So Sila is the word for our ethical conduct, this bright moral compass. And Dana is that word for generosity. So this generosity and ethics, they are very much and very, very interlinked. And I like the word you said, it's a gift. It is. It's truly a gift. It is truly a gift to be that presence out in the world. It is truly a gift. It's going back to ourselves. It is really saying, oh, my beloved. It's treating ourselves as beloved when we're acting out of Sila. And what I loved about what you initially brought in, Dhammavara, was that sense of it is a movement that is natural. And so it becomes something you actually don't even, at first, you're thinking this is a good example in the world, but then that's a separation. There's somebody to be an example for. Mm-hmm. And eventually what it becomes is just naturally bright. Mm-hmm. And then there's no tension in the act of living from Sila.
Yeah.
And when it's in that state, then there's no, there's nothing that they could pick up from your presentation that is creating a judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there's an understanding that wherever that person is, or that system, or that organization, or that is where they are in their journey. That is where they are in their conditioning. And it's with this compassion and warmth and understanding that, oh, also beloved, you are at this point in your practice. And that's very, very natural for you to be there. And it's very, very natural for what's coming from my practice and warmth and openness and good-heartedness and Sila is this. And so it's a gift that is just Dana in its purest sense, because there's nothing expected in return. We don't expect them to change, but we're not surprised when they do. And then we can just very beautifully celebrate the shifts we see. I would suspect probably all the people that, at least those that I know, and welcome to those that are new, I would suspect you've probably seen that in your life, where some shift in your behavior has created an opening for someone. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Personal story is my sister. She of course, she was like, oh, okay, you go into monastic life. I'm really happy for you. But I won't get to call you as often as I want to call you. And, you're not going to be as available. So I'm sad for me. So this is what she had said to me. And I said, yeah, I do understand that. And I appreciate that. And we'll just have to set times for us to have a chat or a phone call or something, which turned out to be a good thing, because then it was like a dedicated time to connect. And over the years, totally without my prompting, because I'd let her know, okay, I'm going to be in retreat for the next month or 3 months or whatever. And she'd be, oh, I'm going to miss you. But then over the years, she said, oh, you're going to be in retreat for a month. I decided I'm going to give up this while you're on retreat. I'm going to give up my social media, or I'm going to give up, so she started taking on, of her own choice, some form of a renunciation practice. I was surprised by it, but delighted by it. And it was just this natural movement of the sharing of Sila that, and renunciation and all of the practice that she picked up. And this is just a real obvious example. We make a difference as long as we're not coming from that place of conceit, of othering, of saying we're different. We're not different. We're conditioned. We're all conditioned. And to remember that what we're conditioning is Sila. And what we're conditioning is our response. And from that, others may see how freeing it is to live that way. Does anyone want to bring up how difficult it is, or they want to bring up huge benefits? Or I see some looks on the screen like, oh, I'm really thinking about this. So I'm curious what's going on. And no need to share if you don't wish to. It's
I have a cute story, but
cute story.
I'll wait if anyone else has their hand up.
If anyone has their hand up, otherwise we'd love to go to Alex's cute story. Okay. Do you want to tell it in person? Or I forgot.
You don't
Yes.
Why not? My slightly cute story, well, actually, I think it's very cute. My sister was in the military. She is no longer in the military, but when she was on base, she told me that she found this lizard in her room, and she had been thinking about just killing it. But then she said she thought about me, and she was like, I can't kill it. So she spent like an hour trying to catch it, and she ended up catching it, and she released it. And since then, she hasn't killed any little, bugs or anything. She always catches them and releases them. And she's not a Buddhist, but I think, and I haven't been preachy about Buddhism, but she just said, I think she noticed the change. Yeah. And in thinking about that change, it made her, take the first precept kind of implicitly. So I've been really happy about that.
Yeah, that's exactly. I hear this time and time again that now if you do get preachy with your sister or your brother or your parents, or that's where that conceit comes in. But when it's a natural movement of the Dhamma unfolding in our lives, then that's when it begins to sparkle and people want a taste of it too. So, yeah, came up.
Thank you, Ayya. This reminds
Oh,
me.
I think it's my volume. No, go ahead.
This reminds me of, I would call boundaries. So maybe there's another word in Pali for that. I don't know, but and sometimes people think of that as a bad word. Boundaries depends on where you come from, but like. But I don't know what other word, but I think when you said you were going on retreat, that's a kind of a boundary. And so as I've aligned with the Dhamma, those are my boundaries. And I say yes or no to things that, and so I've become more skillful in explaining sometimes why. And I think I didn't always do that. Sometimes I would just say whatever it is, and I don't always explain. But as I've grown, I've realized, I can explain it a little better, and saying, well, it's your choice. Here's what I'm able to do, and it's up to you. And so here's what I can do or what I can't do. And I've done this with my family and others, and business deals, and especially when I feel the discomfort of some friction between somebody wants something from me and I'm not comfortable with it. Where am I? Investigate. Where am I with this? What is going on here instead of there? And that's how I find the what I need to do in a kind way, and a compassionate way, just because I care about myself, I care about others. And so that takes it to a different, speech to,
Yes.
yeah, to say it in a way that's just neutral. It's here's, anyway, as I've done that, I find at first, sometimes, anyway, it's a dance. And at first, there were some people that had a hard time with me changing like that, and I just knew. I mean, I was clear. I didn't do, I didn't, and so I was clear. I felt I did what I could, and to make it as harmonious as I could. And
Right.
actually, I've done that many, many times for years, and it actually works out really well that way. And I just try to be clear. And sometimes I'm not getting, they're not getting what they want, or they're, other people. But I'm just very aware of where I'm at when I
Yeah.
engage, and what I'm able to do, and how my comfort level, instead of the programming was to ignore what this being and please others, which it doesn't work, to just be a doormat and not regard myself at all, you know, and
Yeah.
that's what I think the maybe what you were pointing to, where some people feel arrogant if they have confidence, or it might be perceived as arrogant, which is like a bad word in the conditioning, but I don't see it that way anymore. It's it it's actually freedom to have the Dhamma is my value.
Yeah.
The way things are is where the value comes from. The way it's I didn't create myself. I didn't create, you know, whatever good and bad, all the whatever I have, whatever this, I didn't make it. I can't take credit for, you know, but just do the best I can with what's here, what I have, what I have to manage, you know. And so if people I can't control people's perception, where I think the conditioning teaches to that we can, or that we should, or that, you know, and all that. And it's like, it's painful to rely on, depending on other people's approval. Or anyway, I think with the boundaries is where I was starting, and that's not easy at first.
And that was a word I'd hope somebody would bring up. Yep.
And I had to work with these parts a lot, and these voices, and getting them all, being mindful and seeing, hearing the voices, and going, reprogramming. I don't know if you said that. The Dhamma is you didn't say maybe you did.
Reconditioning.
Yeah, it is. It's like
Reconditioning.
reconditioning. Absolutely. Yeah. So at first I felt really arrogant to have, like, not do certain things, but I knew I was on the right track, and I just kept on, and now it's much easier to do, just to be present. And but at first, because of my conditioning, it was like, are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to not, to think about what, anyway, before, like, anyway, how dare you? But, anyway, I've come a long way in that area. I remember I even asked Ajahn Jeff out here where I live in California, about it. I told him a story about my neighbors and how I felt guilty. Like, should I be nicer, and what was going on between them, us? And he was like, they are not your friends,
Right.
And he was very strong, and kind of laughing, going, they're not in the Dhamma. They're not practiced. They're not your friends.
I think this is something really important we do need to consider. And I was hoping that this would come up, because if I just talk about all the brightness and beauty and light, that is where we're heading. But the reality is that we are working with other conditioned beings. We're living with other conditioned beings. We're working with other conditioned beings. And not everyone's conditioning is including the 5, much less the 8 precepts. And so you were asking for a word that might be different than boundaries. I think it's right there in the precepts itself. It's training. So an easier way to put this forth to your friends and your neighbors is, well, I've undertaken this training. So right there, it's not arrogant. I've achieved something and I'm committed to it. And this is my belief structure. I've undertaken this training where I am not going to do such and such an activity. A lot of us maybe went through the phase of having to say, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to go out and have that social drink with you. Or if I go out, I'm going to have a soda or water or juice. And to phrase it not as I took a precept or a vow or but I'm undergoing a training where I am choosing to focus on not killing, not lying, not stealing, not whatever it is where the rub is. I'm being very careful about my speech. I'm undertaking that as a training. So I'm going to choose not to do that because it's part of my training. A lot of times I've had friends then want to help me out with it. And then I've had other friends who wanted to push back and say, well, you're no fun anymore. I was never much of a gossiper, but still I might hang around it. And then there got to be a point where I just didn't want to listen to that. And I would start to interject like try to find the positive pointer. But at first it came across feeling in me like a conceit, feeling in me like particularly like that underlying thing of who am I to even try this? You know, because I didn't yet have that sense of I'm a conditioned being, I am undertaking a training, and it's not going to be one and done overnight. It's a messy process to get to that bright purity of a natural movement of the Dhamma, because we've done a whole lot of muddying the waters for years. Even if our own actions weren't negative, we're swimming in the soup of movies and advertisements and whatnot, where we're watching whatever it is in the media. And the messages are, what can you get away with? And that's not the sense that comes to our heart when we're really seeped in the training. So that's something to play with, is when you introduce it to other people, to say, I'm undertaking a training. And it's held in a way more like, oh, okay, I'm doing an experiment on happiness based on the way I speak, or not imbibing in that, or not even killing the mosquito. Not I'm undertaking a training to see how this impacts my life. And then as people notice how it impacts your life, the ones who are your friends and want to align with that will become closer and closer. And those who don't may still be receiving just what they need at the time, and their conditioning isn't such that it's appropriate for them right then. So we can just let it go now. And setting the boundaries is really adhering to our training. And when we adhere to the training, the boundaries become natural, and it becomes something that, as Mudita was saying, it's a safety, it's a gift. And the gift is two directional to myself. And I heard Kema saying that too. It's for myself, and it's also for them. It creates a good relationship, even though changing relationships is hard. It's not easy. Do others have experiences, comments? You can't do it, it doesn't work. Or I love it. Or not in my profession, not in my neighborhood. Amy.
This is kind of corny, but bring it on, right?
Bring it on.
Corny's okay. Yeah. A few weeks ago, a mosquito flew in to my kitchen, and it was biting. It was landed on my arm, and I realized that I finally broke the conditioning of that natural impulse to go swat.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It's like the corny smallest thing, but I was like, it didn't. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You can condition yourself out of it. So I kept just kind of sweeping, like sweeping you toward the window. And it bit me, but like 2 half bites. And so I swept it, and I guess it landed somewhere else and bit half a bite again. And I successfully sweeped it out the window. And I looked at my arm, and I had 2 like mini bites. And I was kind of like, I don't know, not proud of the bites, but like just really actually in awe.
Yes.
That it's possible to train like such a deeply ingrained instinct that has been trained into us for years. Yeah, just even the corniest thing like that, I was like, whoa.
Yep.
this is powerful. I didn't kill that mosquito.
Yeah.
I still feel so happy about it.
Well, and that's exactly the thing is changing our conditioning in this way really does make us happy. And I also want to say when we fail, that it's not there's no conceit in that either. It's like, oh, okay, here's where the conditioning is still strong. So for example, I was all fine with the mosquitoes and the bees and all of that on my own body. But when I accidentally brought a wasp nest into my apartment, I was suddenly really terrified for my cats. And so, because my cats were curious and they're around, and I'm like, no, don't sting the cats. And the bees are stinging me, but the cats are there and they're curious. And I'm like, so I'm trying to separate myself and the bees from the cats. And I got most of them out, but then there was one left in the bathroom and there was a cat there, and wham, I hit that bee. I was defending my cat. And afterwards I went, oh, it hurt to kill the bee. And I realized I was defending. I was, I love my cat more than the bee. And to feel and really to know that and that sense of it. And it was a real message to me of how far I had come, that I could actually stand there and attempt to remove wasps from my legs who were stinging me. And yet, as soon as they started to go after somebody I loved, then I was ready to kill again. And to feel that difference. That very next day, I had a meditation retreat at a day-long retreat that I was attending. I was a layperson. And I did, those stings felt like a badge of honor during the retreat. Like, yes, okay, I definitely have come a long way. And I'm conditioned, and here we are. And yeah, so I think we celebrate every mosquito we don't swat. And then we also celebrate oh, okay, I need to work on being beloved even some more. Oops, I got a device I didn't turn off here. Let me do that. There we go. Yeah. Well, we have a few more minutes if someone has a question or another story, or these are the things we should celebrate together, because it's out in the world that could sound corny, but in here we know that, wow, that's a shift of the heart. It really is, and it's a gift. It's a gift. Amy.
I'm curious about how people keep the five. So on the precepts, the speech precept and the five, it's usually expressed as refraining from lying. But sometimes I see it expanded to include other kinds of, or to include other kinds of wrong speech,
Yeah.
which I really like. And I like thinking about the five as including refraining from harsh speech, from unkind speech. Oh, this is a tough one sometimes, but like unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder what you think, or if you had an experience as a lay person incorporating that. Do you have water?
I've got tea right next to me. we had one really wonderful raspberries during lunch, and I think there might have been an extra seed left around. You know how that is.
Please be careful.
All good. Yeah, I'm going to open it up for lay people to respond, and also to say, remember, it's a training. And so start with the blatant lies and work your way down to the unnecessary speech. So others who, I know everyone in this room and probably on the screen have been working with this.
I have a question.
Mudita.
If no one's around, it might not.
Okay, I'll leave it.
Is it okay if I cuss? If no one's around? I'm not
Okay.
harming anyone.
The question is it okay to cuss if no one else is there to hear you? Seeing laughter. My question back would be, what does it feel like in your body when you're cussing?
A relief of frustration.
Okay. So what does frustration feel like? And tell me to stop if you don't want to say it. This is such a universal
pressure. It's just pressure.
Okay.
That, it feels more like a natural reaction. So I suppose you want to condition yourself not to do it because it's not natural. You don't want to just naturally do whatever. You want to be mindful.
Uh-huh.
So giving in to the natural whatever, you're not being mindful. So I guess I answered my own question.
To some extent, yeah. So absolutely, you're answering your own question in regards to, is it ultimately helpful for your practice?
Ultimately, no.
Ultimately, no. Is it relieving some pressure right now?
It can.
Yes.
When you stub your toe and you're like,
yes.
yes.
Yes. So this is reality.
Yeah.
We do these conditionings because they are alleviating something. Right. And the Buddha calls that the gratification. Okay. There is a gratification in cussing.
Oddly enough, yes, which is weird. I guess you have to investigate where that comes from.
It's totally normal.
Yeah.
There is also a danger in cussing. So the Buddha says, look at the gratification, look at the danger. And I think you are already answering what the danger is as well. Yeah. It's that you're not really showing up with the mindfulness, you're not attending to it with the kind of care. And a cussing conditioning usually has a flavor to it, right?
Yeah. And it's also a body. It's a body release.
So instead, oh, sweetheart,
okay.
Ouch.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Ouch.
That would be maybe a better way.
And it takes a while to go from this to this.
Okay. So.
I did not do it overnight. And I don't do it every time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm navigating the on-screen, off-screen, in-room experience, but I'm guessing it's universal. Is that true? That sometimes a behavior might feel like it's gratifying in relieving a pressure, and then if you realign it and you rework it, you find out maybe there's a more wholesome way to do this. So that's a partial answer to your question, Amy, of how do you deal with it? You look at the gratification, the danger, and the escape of the lying, the half-truths, the gossiping, the unnecessary speech. And Ayya Vijana and I still talk about this a lot, you know, particularly around the useless speech. We talk about it a lot as to what is it that we're attempting to communicate to each other through those conversations. And it's really interesting because then we start to get at where the what do you the parts that don't have that total sense of the Dhamma just flowing through, the insecurities, that's the word, where there's still the insecurity in my poor monastic heart that needs a little care. And if I act in this way or speak in this way with you, maybe you'll give me some attention. And it's really humbling to look at that and say, yeah, here's my conditioned behavior, because I've been told if I play the clown or if I tell a sob story, or, we have our different methods. So that crosses the lay monastic life divide very easily. Do you want to say more about it, Amy? Is that good?
Well, driving is a good example. I think like, oh, I see improvements, and then I get behind the wheel and I'm like, even if I'm not cussing at people, what I find is like, there's this other form of the same thing in a way where I'm like, oh, that's a bad driver. They should learn to drive.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not cussing, but it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
And I do try to catch myself. And when I do, I say, never mind, they're driving. Look at your mind.
Yeah. Is it forward leading in a good way? Yeah, some of us were in an accident this last week, so we're totally understanding of this one. And I actually don't, all three of us are in the room here, so I don't recall anyone like jumping on the driver that hit us. I mean, no, it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. It was ooh, well, this was a situation this is the situation we're in. Now, what should we do? We should pull over. We should exchange numbers. We should, wait for the police, da, da, da. I didn't have any sense of any finger pointing and whatever. I mean, the police officer, of course, had to figure it all out. That's their job. But it was much more of a sense of, are you okay? Are you okay? What do we need to do now? And that kind of movement of interaction, I think, is more realistic in terms of keeping an open heart and holding the precepts easily. When we're not trying to point blame, it's more like, well, the causes and conditions were this, and yes, okay, there was less mindfulness than would have been ideal for the driver behind us, and here we are. So it is possible. It is possible. And we've got the driver on the meta list. So, it's not a blame. It's a, oh, I hope you're okay. Well, maybe that's enough. Oh, got a raised hand. Not enough. Let's keep going. And anyone in the room, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, just as we're talking about this, I think, you know what? Maybe it would be skillful to see when those things arise as a gift.
Yeah.
To say, like, I can see my mind. Like, it's a sign of your mind.
Right. Like when the beast, it's like, oh.
And it's an opportunity to
Yes.
practice restraint.
Yes.
And you can change it as it's happening.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it. We don't just sit in a vacuum going, I must not follow through with unskillful thoughts. I must not follow through with unskillful thoughts. I must never have unskillful thoughts. It's going to happen.
It's a training to be observed. It does not say, and this is a mandate that must be kept.
Now,
Now, I know that's what's so beautiful about the precepts is that it's a training to be observed. And that brings the mindfulness back in that Mudita was talking about. It's a training to be observed.
and also the kindness.
And the kindness.
It brings the kindness because there are many, many times we fall short.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kindness there is.
And not every moment of every interaction is going to be sunshine and light. You know, and until we're arahants, here we are. Yeah. And I'm glad to celebrate it. Yeah. And I did say in the accident, I couldn't have been in an accident with better people. You know? It's true. It's true. You know? Whatever, we're all here by accident. Amy, please.
I'm gonna add a bonus to like the opportunity thing. When those things arise, I'm gonna commit to this. I'm gonna do a little Adhana. I'm gonna use it as prompt to remember that whatever behaviors I'm encountering out there that I'm judging are the result of conditions.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Yes. I have two things I regularly go to, and one of them, as soon as I feel the snarl come up, what I do is I'm a conditioned being, and they are too. So I offer that one as you can try that mantra on. And then when I'm ready to start moving and acting again, back into reality land, where conditioned beings is, then I ask myself, what's the kindest thing right now? So I'm a conditioned being. I do this putting my hand on my cheek as just like, oh, sweetheart, I'm a conditioned being, and so are they. And then once I'm back in reality, what is the kindest thing right now? And that includes me. That includes me. So it may be the boundaries or the trainings or what is the kindest thing right now? See, we haven't heard from Andrew or Elizabeth. If either of you would like to, no pressure, you're welcome to share. Otherwise, we're just very glad to have you here.
I just want to see, I think when I notice you doing that, and I've noticed that a lot, or sometimes I just hug myself like this, that there's power in that movement.
Yeah.
Because it stops the mind from judging, it stops it from othering that someone, it brings it right back here.
Yeah.
And it's that being aware of the body first, and then the mind opens up and the heart opens up.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of power in those simple movements. I just want to appreciate you and thank you for that, and also allow others to experience that power.
Yeah. Sadhu, sadhu. Well, maybe that's good for today to end on this, caring for this life and knowing that everyone out there is also a conditioned being. So yes.
There is power in that. There really truly is.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you'd like, we will close with the homage to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. You're welcome to join in bowing or chanting, or to just be with. Arahang Sama Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi
Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.
So thank you for joining. I'm going to turn the recording off and then a few words for just the people here.